Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into why Greenland, this massive island of ice, has suddenly become this critical obsession for the world's superpowers. It's a story that's at the center of a new global power struggle.
Okay, let's just start with the statement that basically lit the fuse on all of this. When a U.S. president says the nation's security hinges on having complete and total control of Greenland, well, that's not just an off-the-cuff remark. That's a huge declaration that puts the entire world on notice.
A comment like that sends shockwaves through allied capitals, and it raises a fundamental question. What is it about this vast, icy landscape that makes it, in the president's own words, an absolute necessity for American security?
To really get to the bottom of this, we first have to look at how this idea was received. And let me tell you, the reactions could not have been more different.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. It's like two different worlds. Washington is framing this as a strategic move, almost like a massive real estate deal. But for Denmark and for Greenland itself, it's seen as an attack on their very sovereignty, their history. The Danish Prime Minister even called it an absurd discussion.
But here's the thing. As wild as this whole idea sounds today, the U.S. trying to buy Greenland, it's not actually new. This is a ghost from the past, from the very dawn of the Cold War.
Let's rewind a bit. It's 1941. Denmark is occupied by the Nazis, and the U.S. sets up military bases on Greenland to protect North America. Makes sense. But after the war, they didn't really want to pack up and leave. So in 1946, President Truman's team made a secret offer to just buy the island. And a year later, Denmark gave them a firm no.
And this response from the Danish foreign minister at the time just captures the feeling perfectly, doesn't it? It's polite, it acknowledges America's help during the war, but it also draws a really clear line in the sand when it comes to sovereignty. So that brings us to the core of it all. Why? Why has Greenland been this strategic prize for so long? What's the obsession about?
Well, it really boils down to three huge factors. First, its location. It is the perfect spot for missile defense and for keeping an eye on Russian and Chinese moves in the Arctic. Second, it's sitting on what could be a treasure trove of rare earth minerals. And third, with the Arctic ice melting, new, much faster shipping lanes are opening up. Controlling those routes is a massive economic game changer.
And to really get a sense of the resource angle, just look at this chart. Right now, China absolutely dominates the world's production of rare earth minerals. The stuff that's in everything, from your phone to advanced weapons. That gives Beijing a ton of economic leverage, and that has strategists in the U.S. very, very worried.
And that's why Greenland is so incredibly tempting. The island is thought to have these huge, untouched deposits of critical minerals. So for the White House, getting access isn't just about business. It's what they call economic sovereignty. It's about being able to build your own stuff for green energy or national defense without having to rely on a major rival like China.
This strategic value is what's fueling this whole thing. And it gets to a question President Trump himself raised when he kind of dismissed Denmark's claim. So, who actually has the rightful claim to Greenland, and why?
While the history here is way more complex than just one boat landing, it actually starts with Norse Vikings from Norway all the way back around 986. Those settlements eventually accepted Norwegian rule, which then tied the island to Denmark when the two kingdoms joined up in 1380. Even after that union broke apart, Greenland stayed with Denmark. And all of this was sealed in 1933 by an international court. So this is a claim built over 1,000 years of history. But, and this is a huge but, all of that long history has led to a very modern reality. One that completely changes this conversation and pretty much makes the idea of a simple sale impossible.
The real game changer was the 2009 Self-Government Act. This law wasn't just some minor update. It fundamentally transformed the whole relationship. It legally recognized the people of Greenland as having the right to self-determination under international law. So what does that actually mean? It means Denmark literally does not have the authority to sell the island. Any deal, any change at all, would require a vote, the approval of the Greenlandic people themselves. The power isn't in Copenhagen anymore. It's in Nuuk, Greenland's capital.
And speaking of the people of Greenland, they've made their feelings on the matter crystal clear. Polls show that a staggering 85% of the population is completely against any kind of U.S. takeover.
This quote from the Danish Prime Minister just captures the modern reality perfectly. And pay attention to that middle part. Greenland is not Danish. That's not her casting the island aside. That's her stating a legal fact. She's acknowledging that, under the law, only Greenland gets to decide its own future. Which leaves us with a final and pretty provocative question. In this new era where superpowers are competing for every strategic advantage, can the principle of self-determination for 56,000 people stand up against the ambitions of a global power? That's a question that is really going to define the future of the Arctic.